Good afternoon, I'm Drew Holley. I'm with BIS Benefits. We're a commercial and employee benefit advisor here in Metro Atlanta, serving small businesses. We're here to talk about our health insurance payments tax deductible. That is a very loaded question because what do you mean by payments? Do you mean premium? Do you mean paying if you have a doctor bill or a prescription? So it depends is the answer. So let me just speculate and say, are you paying for your health insurance premium? The insurance company, Aetna, Blue Cross, United, they're not gonna pay anything unless you're covered. And so let's talk about small business health insurance. If you have a plan offered by your employer and typically a certain amount comes out of your paycheck, roughly 99.9% of those small group health insurance plans should be structured. Nothing you as an individual employee should have to do. When that comes out of your paycheck to pay for your premium for you or your family should come out pre-tax, another word, tax deductible, except you're having it out of your paycheck, so you just don't pay taxes on that portion, therefore you don't have to file anything with your CPA the next year. So yes, premiums, if your employer has what's called a Section 125, I'm not gonna bore you what that means. It just means that's between your HR department and your benefit broker, and in doing this almost 20 years, there's virtually almost no reason why an employer would not want you as an employee to have your premium, meaning just to be covered, to be tax-free, okay? Now, you have an insurance plan. Depending on your insurance plan, is there a way to pay copays or deductibles or prescriptions tax-free or tax-deductible? It depends. If you just have a mainline insurance plan with copays and deductibles, generally speaking, you are covered out of your paycheck, your premium tax-free, but then if you get a paycheck and then you need money to pay for your copay or prescriptions, no, it's not tax-free. Now, there are ways to make it tax-free. So your employer could offer what's called a flexible spending account. Essentially, it's a debit card with IRS limits that if you throw money into that account, then you can use that debit card or FSA card to pay for things pre-tax. But you can't load $20,000 a year on there. There's limits, okay? And your HR department should have what those limits are. But those limits are not just what your company has. For the most part, all companies are gonna let you do what the IRS allows to do. And if you wanna know what those limits are, you can reach out to BIS. So you could have a health insurance plan, you pay for the premium pre-tax, but all your copays and deductibles aren't necessarily unless your employer offers an FSA. So those are ways to make things more tax efficient as opposed to necessarily tax deductible. Now, there's another type of health insurance plan called a high deductible health plan, and it has contractual obligations and items that the federal government says it has to be XYZ. If it meets those parameters through your HR company, your open enrollment meetings, your software, it should say this plan is high deductible eligible, therefore you can have, you don't have to, a health savings account. And in that health savings account, you can throw money in it pre-tax. Your employer might even throw money in it. That's kind of tax-free. And yes, those funds can be used for copay, deductibles, prescriptions, tax-free, okay? And depending on how wonky you are and how tax efficient you want to go, you can somewhat double dip on FSA and HSA, but they call it limited. But generally speaking, if you're an individual and you just want to go buy an individual personal policy, it's not tax-free. So buying it through your employer, our system here in America allows you to pay for the premium tax-free, and then there's products or layers that you can dive in deeper to make it more tax efficient. So if that's something, if you're listening to this and your employer doesn't offer it, you should tell your employer to talk to an experienced benefit advisor like BIS to try to see if we can get it in your company. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at bisbenefits.com.